All right, people are asking us if it goes Labor, what's going to happen to property? If it goes Liberal, what's going to happen with property? Our crystal ball, stay tuned. Oh, what happened?
I'm the ringleader, so listen up.
Morning,
Mr. Wapshot,
Hey, Mr. Novak.
The Economist.
That's right, hey.
How are
big
you?
week. Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Good. It's a big week. It's a big week. So Saturday night, is it? Is it Saturday night we get the result?
Yeah, I believe so. The big count, all happening, and a lot of policy to talk about that's going to affect everyone at home, especially with real estate policy. Very exciting.
A lot of promises being made by both parties.
Yeah, there often is, isn't there?
A lot of promises being made. Some of them property related. So it's pretty interesting. So we're real estate agents on the northern beaches of Sydney. So we're fortunate to be in, I'd say, probably a pretty balanced area. And sort of get the feedback from people about property, about sort of what's happening out there. Yeah. What do you reckon? What's going to happen to property post these elections?
If I'm reading between the lines with a lot of this policy, what it looks like to me is not necessarily policy to bring affordability down, but it's more unlocking the ability for other people to now afford property. So what I mean by that, guys, is my suggestion would be that rather than bringing prices of property down, the government's going to continue pushing for support to allow people to enter the property market. That being ways of 5% deposits, restrictions on prices. Traditionally we had, I think it was 900,000 for first home buyers that applied the 5% deposit. Now Labor's thinking of unrestricting that. So based on, your earnings don't limit you and the price of the property doesn't limit you for the 5% deposit. So that's along with things like, superannuation to allow for deposits as well. So I think Liberals up to $50,000. There's equity sharing.
First-time buyers don't know about being able to use their voluntary contributions with super as a deposit. So yeah, there's some. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of these policies, like the equity sharing, which is a big one, where basically the government takes responsibility of 40% of the purchase price, meaning that the purchaser, if they were purchasing $1 million property to make it easy, they would only be paying a mortgage on the first 5 years of $650,000. Yeah. So I think if you look at all this policy and you pull it all apart, it looks like property is going to continue the path it's been on for the last 10, 20, 30 years. And it's more going to be about unlocking ways for the public to enter these markets, which they couldn't before. For example, through lower deposits, access through super, government grants where they buy into the equity. So I'm actually pretty excited for the entry-level stock of real estate, as I think they're probably going to get the biggest assistance, that buyer pool. And obviously, guys, what that means is your traditional, you've got 10 people rocking up to your open home. Well, all of a sudden with these policies, that 10 becomes 20, 25 now, because people that couldn't afford it, didn't have the deposit, didn't have the ability to enter the market, are now getting those stepping stones to be able to. And we all know with a more competitive, more higher demand in a market, there's only one way the prices go, and that is up.
So Liberal or Labor post Saturday night, they've got what they stand for, I guess, with Liberal and with Labor, what they stand for. But I guess what people are concerned with is the net result post that. So I personally think that it's a little bit like a freight train. I think what Donald Trump has done politically has had a lot more change and momentum very early. That's really rare in our political system or in any political system to have so much change so early. I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit more floppy with both of the guys. It's not going to be violent, like what's happened in America that with changes. And the nice thing is, and I think sometimes with politics, you can cut off the head of the snake, but the whole body's still there, or you can get rid of the horse is the horse, and you just changing the jockey over. So I still think the majority of the momentum for if Labor stays in will stay how it is, or if Liberal comes in will be what we're used to. I don't think it'll be radical. That net effect. What do you think it's going to do to property prices?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's only going to improve the market. I think a lot of the talk and policy is just about making things, opening up the market to more people, as opposed to bringing out supply. The tough thing about bringing on supply to a market is it generally takes 3-5 years to feel it, to feel any effect, if any effect at all. Because generally, we've got such a high migration rate.
That's new supply. Yeah.
Pardon? Yeah.
That's new supply, yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So I feel like even with both parties having that, $1 billion fund and, we're going to build 10,000 houses, all that talk, I really don't think that's going to have too much of an impact. I feel that we'll probably fill the seats up by the time they're built. We all know things take a long time too. A lot of red tape with your construction.
Yeah.
It'd be good to see the government focus on that side of things of construction as opposed to anything else. I mean, we've seen some crazy statistics come out, even of developers nearby of what it costs to build a unit these days. All the rules, compliance, cost of resources. I mean, you'd think when they quoted 600,000 to build a square box, you're thinking of your traditional 5-bedroom house. That's not the case anymore.
Yeah, as little as 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
And it's like everything. I mean, if you're starting from, how do you make that any less expensive or affordable for people if the raw materials coming up to the finished product haven't changed, have only increased? I mean, there's talk of how many taxes are involved in the building process. They seem to say that taxes almost take up half of the build cost in a lot of houses. I've seen a report being done. So I think if there's to be a real impact on affordability, it's probably going to be on that side of the stick. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, look, I think it's pretty radical if they're going to get rid of some taxes and some compliance, because compliance is adding to the cost. Probably unlikely. It seems like they're not focusing on that. They're focusing on delivering more stock. But it's like in our area, we speak to hundreds of developers over the course of a month, like the biggest guys in our area. And that's what they all say. It's just that doesn't work. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. As not that they don't have the money, not that they don't want to build, but they can't. They're too worried about coming out of the other end with nothing in their pocket, as in nothing. So it's like, why would we do it if there's no incentive? So it's going to be interesting, and things have to move for stock to be delivered to the northern beaches and to Sydney. Prices have to go up to make it economical for a developer to do that. Building costs have to go down. Compliance has to go down. Funding has to go down. They're all pretty hard needles to move.
Yeah, it really is, and that's why I think we see what they're doing here with opening up these new avenues. They've sort of gone, yeah, that might be a bit tricky to move around. Let's open up this bag of worms in the way of releasing super and things like that. You can sort of see where it's going, and that's where I've been reading in between the lines. I really think entry level units will do really well.
Yep.
coming out post-election. Obviously, we've got to downsize the market, but I just think the way things are going, that entry-level stock, people that are traditionally renters, will now be moving into a homeowner segment, which should then give the rental market a bit of a breather, because that will sort of bring up the supply there as those traditional renters move over as owners now with this new support. So I'd see a high demand in that lower 1 or 2 bedders, entry level 3 bedders, that sort of a thing. I think we'll do quite well post election.
I know we all like to bag politicians, but I do have to say that this Minns fella, he's given it a red hot crack with the low to medium density introduction. Like the net effect in our area, haven't seen what they're trying to achieve being achieved, but he's had a red hot crack going across 170 town centres.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you probably need to be that aggressive in this day and age. So because there's so many boxes to tick, so many nods to get from this person, that person. It probably takes what Mr. Minns has done with that emergency group, where there's only a couple of guys that need to pass their eyes through it. So you probably do need to be a bit aggressive. And unfortunately, like with these things, the processes, they don't fast track the actual approvals through this. It's more just allowing a bigger footprint to be built on. So again, we'll see these changes come, but it won't be for another 2, 3, 5 years.
So spinning the roulette wheel on the election on property, who's going to win and what's going to happen with property in a few sentences, in summary?
Well, after reading what I was reading this morning, it seems to be that with the Canadian, that they just had their elections, Liberals won over there, and what they're saying is there was a Trump effect. So what they're essentially saying is that the Liberals were actually falling behind the last 3 months of their campaign. They were losing. But the whole idea of, apparently since the inauguration of Trump, the tariffs, there were 3 key steps, and they tracked the popularity of the party. And as each of these came out, Liberals started to make their way back up again. So I'm a little bit scared, because you can sort of see Dutton playing the Trump card, and whether how the general public takes that, I don't know. I sort of think Albanese's playing it safe, under the radar, so you sort of can't pick at him. I would have preferred a Liberal win here, but something in the back of my head's telling me that Labor's poking its head up. We're going to see something a little bit crazy with the whole Trump fiasco and Dutton's relationship with him there. I think property's going to go well either way. Probably a little bit more inclined on a Liberal side. I do like a little bit more of their policy, real estate wise. It's really a toss of the coin. I'm going to go something crazy. I'm going to say Labor wins, and I'm going to say property prices go up. Mark, what's
How much?
Pardon?
How much? How much is the property base going to go up?
I think units do 10%. Housing sort of, I see it leveling out a bit, but still doing quite well. So I'll be around that 6-7% mark. That's probably my 2026 outlook for property next year. With either party winning, I don't see too much of a difference either way, because a lot of them, have some same policy in a way. So yeah, I see generally the same outcome with property prices. Just a little bit unsure of where the Australian public's going to go in terms of the election.
Interesting. Well, there you go. There you go, guys and girls. That's the punt ahead for the next for the elections this weekend. I'm thinking it's going to go Liberal. I'm thinking it's going to be the next 12 months house prices are going to be at level, and I think the next 12 months unit prices will see probably 10 or 12% growth that period. A couple of really good fundamental reasons I'll share in another series, but have a great day.
See you, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks, Ed. Cheers. Bye.